All right, so this video is going to be about the truth of what's happening in the market here in Northern Virginia, and I don't think that it's going to be what everybody wants to hear. So stay tuned to find out the details. So before I go into this, I need to make it very, very clear what my intention is in doing these videos. My intention is not to state what I think is going to happen, because the simple fact of the matter is the real estate market is very, very unpredictable, whether it's going to go up or going to go down. The fact of the matter is you never know what the market is going to do. So all of these experts that are predicting and telling you that there's a huge market crash coming, that are telling you that the real estate is due for the bubble to burst, they're all making predictions, and the fact is nobody knows what's going to happen. So what my intention is to go through here and simply look at the numbers and actually explain to you what the numbers mean. This is what has always worked for me. This is the approach that I've always taken to basically what you want to do with the real estate market is not try to time it, but strategize for what's going on currently in the market so that you mitigate your risks. So the fact of the matter is we're going to go through numbers. I'm going to explain to you what the numbers mean. You're going to make a decision for yourself, but you're going to see that it's not necessarily what is being put out there and what, you know, the clickbait and what the general media is trying to sell everybody. They're trying to sell fear. They're trying to sell the sky is falling. And that's causing a lot of damage, in my opinion, to buyers who are pulling back from the market because they're waiting for this huge price drop because they're thinking that they're going to, take advantage of that. And for sellers who are afraid to go into the market because they think that nobody's buying. And so right now we're just going to look at the numbers. You're going to make a decision for yourself as far as what you think is going to happen in the market. I do have an opinion, but that's all it is an opinion, just like yours is just an opinion, because you have to look at the numbers. You have to make logical, strategic decisions based on what the numbers are and what they actually mean. So I'm going to go through the market report. This specific market report is November of 2022 over November of 2021, and we're going to have some historical conversations as well. At the end of the market report, I'm going to tack on a video that I shot about an article that a client recently sent to me talking about how everybody is underwater in their mortgages, and I'm going to break that article down to show you how using these numbers will help you. Using the numbers, using what you know about numbers, and using facts will help you interpret what's actually being said out there, what is true, what is not, what are the actual trends. Okay, so that is my goal of this video and the breakdown of the article. Okay, so we're going to dive into the numbers of November of 2022 versus November of 2021, and hopefully you'll gain some insight. I find these numbers very helpful when I'm talking to clients. These strategies have worked for Kelly and me, so hopefully they'll work for you. Okay, all right, so here we go. So as you can see, first number we're going to look at is new listings. So new listings for November of 2022 was 153. New listings for November of 2021 was 257. So there has been a significant drop in the volume of the market. So when everybody's talking about the market is falling, this is true. The volume of market transactions are falling. The key is it's not just falling on the buyer side, it's also falling on the inventory side. Look at this difference on inventory. That's a huge, huge decrease. And so what that means is there's not much supply. And remember, prices are driven by supply versus demand. Right now, there is not much supply. There's very little supply. If this number would be what it was last year for November at 257, and then we came over here to the number of sales and we only had 111 sales, then we would be looking at, okay, there's going to be a decrease in market value. There's going to be a decrease in actual values of homes. But that's not happening because the supply is not going down, is going down significantly and almost more so than the demand. Okay, so let's look at demand, number of sales. November of 2021, 270 sales. November of 2022, 111 sales. Okay, so there's a lot fewer transactions, but there's a lot fewer properties to buy. So how do we know what the actual demand is, what the actual absorption rate is? Well, we go onto these numbers. So days on market. These are the average days that it takes a property to sell. sorry about that. So in November of 2021, it was 55 days. It was a spike. We had one in January of 2022 where it spiked up to 74, but November spiked up to 55 days. We have the holidays, so on. There's usually a fall decrease. So that's not surprising. November and December were at 55 and 51. So houses were moving a little bit more slowly. But look what happened in November of 2022, 22 days on market. Because inventory is so low and buyer demand is actually higher right now than the inventory that's out there, the properties that are priced appropriately and are priced appropriately for their condition, location, they are selling very, very quickly in almost half the time this year. So if properties are selling in half the time, how can we expect prices, market values to be coming down when properties are still selling very, very quickly? So that's number one. And keep in mind, as we're going through this, we're looking at the broad picture. One piece of data does not give us an answer. We have to look at all the pieces of the data and see what is going on and make our decisions based on that. Months of inventory. So this is what's called the absorption rate. The absorption rate is if no more properties came on the market and the current demand did not change at all, how long would it take for us to sell through all of the inventory that's in the market? Anything above a 5 to 6 month ratio is considered a seller's market. Anything below a 5 to 6 month ratio is considered, anything above a 5 to 6 month ratio or absorption rate is considered a buyer's market. Anything below that's considered a seller's market. So you can see we've been pretty consistently in a seller's market. Last month in October, we hit 5, so it was kind of neutral, and we saw that on our weekly market reports. Now we're at 4 months. So September we were in 4 months, and we got some pretty low months here. November of last year we were at 4 months. So the absorption rate is exactly the same as it was last year. So the buyer versus seller, inventory versus demand, supply versus demand ratio is the same as it was last year. So that's why even though volume has dropped dramatically, the ratio of demand versus supply has not. So that's another thing that's going to keep market values stable. It's going to keep that value from having to come down because there's enough buyers out there that are buying well-priced properties. So let's see what's happened with actual median sales price. So median sales prices for November of 2022 is, I'm going to hover over it so we can see the number, 1.1 million. November of 2021, 926,500. So the prices are not coming down. Now, median sales price does not give us a full picture, and I'm going to go into that in just a second. But there's no evidence here showing that median sales prices are dropping or even beginning to drop. We saw a little bit of a downtick in August and September, but if you go over here in August and September, we saw September go down last year. So this was showing us, okay, maybe we're starting to move in that direction. But then as we've seen in our weekly market reports, median sales price has been staying about the same. So what does median sales price actually tell us? I want to spend a little bit of time on this because this is very important, because this is what all of the national statistics are talking about. When they say house values have dropped 20%, they're saying median house prices have dropped 20%. They're not saying market value, they're saying median sales price. So what does that mean? So the median sales price is the median, it's the price point where half of the listed prices are higher and the other half are lower. So it's the number that falls right in the middle. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, let's look at this as an example. Let's say month 1 we had 9 sales. We had 3 million, 2.75, 1.65, 1.5, 500,000, 350, 275, 225, and 220. So in month 1, what do you think the median sales price for this would be? Okay. You might add them up, you might average them. A lot of people would come up with what that median sales price might be just based on what they understand of a median sales price. The actual median sales price is sitting right here. It's 500,000 because there are 4 below and 4 above. So that's the median sales price. This is a valuable number to use when you're looking at large data sets because it takes into account, it allows you to, not have a really, really high or really, really low priced property skew the average, okay, or the median sales price. So it's a valuable tool to use, but it gives us a number of the houses, the movement of how the houses are selling. It does not give us a number of market value. I'm going to demonstrate that in a second. So month number 2. Same 9 sales, we had a 4.25, we had a 3.50, 3.250, 2.5, 400, 395, 385, 350, and 315. So every sales price in this property, or in this month 2, was higher, save this middle one right here. Okay, so what's the median sales price in month 2? 400,000. So based on the statistics that the media uses, if this data was provided, you would see a news report that said, oh my God, housing market has declined 20%. House values have declined 20%. The fact of the matter is, no, they haven't declined 20%. That's just the one that fell in the middle. As you can see, every other one of these prices was higher, okay? But let's take this to a practical application to see how this might play out. So let's say that we have 9 buyers, okay? And these 9 buyers are gonna go and they're gonna buy properties, okay? And they all have this very specific demographic, very specific criteria, and they go out and they buy $3 million house, $3 million house, 3 $2 million houses, and 4 $1 million houses, okay? So the median sales price for those buyers in month 1 is $2 million. So now let's go to month 2, and let's say this is another set of buyers that have the exact same age demographic, the exact same income, the exact same everything. Everything about these demographics of buyers is the exact same. But let's say that the interest rates went up, and they went up 5% or 3% or whatever. So those buyers' buying power decreased. So now, instead of buying these properties, those buyers went along and 7 of them had to buy $1 million properties because their buying power decreased so much. One bought a $2 million and one bought a $3 million property. So what's the median sales price here? It's $1 million, okay? So based on these numbers, the housing market declined 50%. Oh my God, house prices went down 50% is what the media is gonna scream to you. That's what they're gonna report to you. The fact is, the housing prices didn't drop. This has nothing to do with market value. This would give you the inclination to believe that now you can go out and buy a $3 million house for $1.5 million. It has nothing to do with market value. That $3 million house is still a $3 million house. The $2 million house is still a $2 million house. It's just that more people could afford to buy $1 million houses. So when you see a median price point go down, it doesn't mean that the housing value, like let's say you own a house specifically, and let's say you see a 20% decrease next month in the median house price. That doesn't mean that your $1 million house is now worth 20% less. That just means that buyers were purchasing homes that were 20% less. The only way to know if a market value on a property is decreasing is to find a property that has sold, look at what the market value of that specific property was, and see if it was less than the market value. It's not based on sales price. It's not based on listing price. It's not based on sales prices are dropping 20%. That's because sellers are overpricing their properties by 20%. It doesn't mean that market values are dropping. And I'm not saying that market values are not going to drop in the future, but what I am saying that because of the way the media is twisting this information and putting it out there, most of the buyers are sitting on the sidelines and they're missing an opportunity right now, because when the herd goes to the side, there's an opportunity to get in there and get a property for a fair price. As soon as interest rates start coming down, as soon as this demand starts increasing, as soon as people start feeling comfortable, which they're starting to realize, okay, prices aren't coming down, those buyers are going to flood the market again, and we're going to end up right where we were, or at least in some version of what we had 6 months to a year ago. So buyers are being hurt right now because they're sitting on the sidelines waiting for this huge price drop, which we are not seeing. We're not seeing it. I'm looking at our statistics right here. Again, I can't predict the future. All I can do is tell you what's happening right now. We are not seeing price drops. We are not seeing increases in inventory to the point that we are having increases in absorption rate. We're not seeing days on market increase. We're not seeing any of these markers in our market that you are seeing the reports of out in the world. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Please be mindful. Please pay attention to the numbers. If you have questions about a specific area that you're looking in, let me know. I'm happy to run these numbers for you and we can see what your area is. So here's another telling statistic. So how much are the average properties selling for versus list price? Okay, because we're hearing about all these sales price reductions that are happening, correct? So back in April and May, they were up above 102% on average of sales price. Now that includes, your ones that went for 20% above asking price and your ones that went for, 20% less. This is your average. When you get over here into October and November, we're back up to 100%. So on average, buyers are paying 100% of asking price for sellers. That is the deal. That is the market value. A market value is determined by how much a buyer is willing to pay and how much a seller is willing to sell for. When they come together and actually sell a property, that is market value. That is what's happening. They're still selling at 100%. So let's go over and look over historically. What happened historically? I know that you guys, if you've been watching these market reports for a little while, hopefully I can make this work. I'm sorry, bear with me here. I'm gonna try to get this to where it lines up properly, so just bear with me. We're almost there. Okay, so what's historically what has happened? So the blue line is the fixed mortgage rates, okay, because everybody thinks that this crash is gonna happen because of the interest rates. So the fixed interest rates, you know, this is what they've done over the years, came down to historically low. What have median home prices done? They have slowly but surely just ticked up. Ticked up, ticked up. Big dip here. Ticked up, ticked up, ticked up, ticked up. Now again, median home price does not determine value of a market value of a property. But this is historically what has happened. So when you see in the 1980s, you see these little purple marks here, those are recessions. So I went through, I'm not an economist, but I went through and I Googled, you know, what were the recessions of the last, 20 to 30 to 40 years. And these are the recessions that I found. So 1980, there was a recession. Property values continued to go up. 1990s, there was a recession. Property values continued to go up. 2000s, there was a recession. Property values continued to go up. 2008 to 10, there was a recession and a huge market bubble. Property values came down. This is the only recession where there was a significant decrease in median sales price, and we now know, because we can look at it historically, that property values dropped dramatically. And that's because this was caused by the housing market. It was subprime lending. It was the market bubble that caused this huge economic crash. We don't have those issues in the market anymore. Most loans that we have out there right now are very well qualified, and most borrowers have a ton of equity because of the massive appreciation that's occurred. Okay, that's the fact of what is actually out there. So then you go on, we had this huge uptick in median sales price and the spike for COVID, and then we had a small recession for COVID. So we are in a recession right now. We're heading into a recession. What's that gonna do? Everybody thinks that the sky is gonna fall. Number one, because of interest rates, and number two, because we're going into a recession. But you can see here, there was a spike in interest rates. Market values went up. Spike in interest rates, market values went up. Spike in interest rates, market values went up. Recession, 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 market values continued to go up. So all I want to do with this video is, number one, provide you with the information. You can see month over month that we've had a huge decrease in activity in the November market versus the November of 2021, a huge decrease in volume, let's say volume. But we have not had a decrease in market values. We have certainly not had an increase in supply versus demand. They have actually stayed pretty consistent through to where they were in November. And is there going to be a huge market crash? I don't know, but I don't expect there to be. There may be a flattening, which we're kind of seeing. There might be a little bit of a correction, but it's not going to be a 20, 30, 40% correction, in my opinion, like they are putting out there that everybody is starting to fear. And again, my opinion is a lot of people are being hurt right now because they're sitting on the sidelines and missing an opportunity to get into a home for a fair price, with your protections, your contingencies, and your inspection and your appraisal contingencies, having your protections there to allow you to know what it is you're buying. All right, I hope this makes sense. Please feel free to post comments below. If you disagree with me, post your comments below. Let's have a conversation about it. I'm happy to talk about it. I'm happy to know if I'm wrong about any of this. My goal is to give accurate information. If you see something that I'm saying that is absolutely incorrect, please call me out. Let's talk about it. Let's get to the truth of the matter. All right, if you'd like to start the talk. All right, you want to learn how the media is twisting the truth to paint a certain picture that's really actually harmful to buyers and sellers in this real estate market. Stay tuned. I'm going to go in depth into an article that I just received from a client of mine, and we're going to dive into the numbers and see, what's the truth behind the story. All right, so here we go. Actually, before we dive into this, my point on this video and my point on doing this is not to say what is going to happen in the real estate market, because the truth of the matter is nobody knows what's going to happen in the real estate market. Nobody can predict the future. Nobody has a crystal ball. But there is a lot of swaying and a lot of storytelling and a lot of clickbait that goes on out there with the media. This happens in healthcare. This happens in the real estate market. It happens in pretty much everything. I'll give you a quick little example. When Kelly and I were younger, and we had our oldest two kids were at the time very young, probably 3 and 5 years old, round about that way. We were driving home. I'm trying to make this as short as possible. We were driving from our apartment in Florida to my mom's house to stay with her during a hurricane. So it was about a 15 mile drive. And to get there, there was a part of stretch of beach that you would drive by. There was this road you would drive by. You could see the waves crashing. The hurricane was coming in. Wind wasn't there. It was still really safe. The waves were crashing. So we stopped. There was a huge crowd of people on the beach. We stopped, went out to the beach to watch these waves. And we're standing there, there's probably 40 or 50 other people. We're standing out there with all these people, and it started to drizzle a little bit. So we had just gotten out there, and some of the crowd started to pull away and leave. And this rogue wave came, and it hit the beach. And we were actually up on an elevated road that ended out there. It was kind of like a parking lot area. And hit the beach, came up, hit the lower part of the parking lot, splashed up, came over, and kind of swept us a little bit. And I was actually laughing about it and picked up my son and grabbed him. Kelly picked up her daughter. She was kind of laughing about it too until she lost her balance and she got swept a little bit. So she slid a little bit on this concrete road. I walked over, grabbed her, picked her up, and of course it scraped her up, so she wasn't laughing anymore. But anyway, there was a news company that was out there from Tampa, Florida, that videotaped this whole thing happening. And after the incident happened, they actually interviewed Kelly and asked her, about the experience. And she was like, she gave her feedback and talked about all the people that were out there. And at the very end of it, she said, "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry, I was so stupid," kind of joking around because the video crew was from Tampa and she was from Tampa. Fast forward a few hours, gets a call from her dad. Her dad's in Tampa. Dad sees this video. Have a conversation with him. He sends us the news story. They actually posted it on the news down in Tampa, Florida. The video, the Tampa news showed the crowd of people. They actually interviewed some other couples that were out there, told the whole story about what happened. Everything was fine. It was all kind of humorous. It was just kind of a, hey, be careful when you go out to the beach story. Well, about a day later, the Weather Channel picks it up. The Weather Channel edits this story down. And the story that they told was they showed, just zoomed in on the 4 of us standing there. They showed this wave crashing. They didn't show us on an elevated platform that was a road. They showed this wave crashing, sweeping us picking them up and everything. And they told the story that this young couple took their young kids out to the beach to play in the waves. And then they cut Kelly's full interview down to her saying the only thing that she said was, "Mom and Dad, I'm sorry for being so stupid." Luckily, they gave the wrong name when they put her on there. But they took this whole story and they twisted it and they focused in. They didn't tell about the whole crowd of people that were out there. They didn't interview anybody else. They told a story of these 2 young parents who took 2 young children to play in the waves at the beach. And they twisted this story. Well, that's what's happening a lot in the media with all kinds of things, healthcare, with currently real estate market. And we're going to dive into one of those articles right now and show you how that twisting is occurring. Okay, so let's just get right to it. So the first thing we want to look at is we're going to look at the headline. As U.S. home prices fall, an alarming number of buyers are underwater. Okay, so this says 2 things. Number one, it assumes that house prices are falling. So that tells buyers who are already afraid because of recession and because of increased interest rates. That tells buyers, hey, housing prices are coming down. So, now's the time, you got to pull back because housing prices are coming down. You're going to be able to get a deal in the future. So all these buyers are sitting on the sidelines, missing out on the beautiful market opportunity right now that there is to buy. The second thing it says is alarming number of buyers are underwater, which brings back memories. As soon as I read this, it brings back memories of 2007, 2008, when everybody was underwater because of all the subprime lending and all these foreclosures flooded the market, okay? So this headline alone says prices are falling, the sky is falling, and people are now underwater, which means that foreclosures are gonna flood the market and the prices are gonna continue to fall even further, and we're gonna have this huge bubble burst. That's what that says to me, and I think that's what that says to a lot of people. And if you want to know what's going on in our market, watch my November month-over-month video that I just shot. Okay, so let's dive into this a little bit. All right, we're going to go down here. Some 250,000 people who took out a mortgage this past year are now underwater. Okay, they find that another 10 million have less, or another million have less than 10% equity. Okay, so $250,000 people are underwater. God, it does seem like a lot of people. That's okay. What's going on with this? Okay, and then you go down here a little bit, and it says, "All be told, 8% of all mortgages taken out this year are underwater." Okay, so this does seem kind of significant, right? There's a lot of mortgages that are underwater. This is a challenge. We see interest rates going up. We're not seeing prices come down yet. We may see median prices kind of fluctuating throughout the country, but that doesn't mean that market values are coming down. If you don't understand that, again, go watch the market report that I just did for November, where I discuss in depth median sales prices and how they work and what they actually mean to the market. All right, so 8% of mortgages taken out this year are underwater. Again, that feels very significant. So let's read down a little bit further. Average interest rate jumping up. Okay, they're talking about interest rates. We all know that. Oh, okay. Government-backed mortgages. 25% of those buyers are now underwater in government-backed mortgages. Okay, wow, that's a lot. 30% of mortgaged homes bought this year are underwater in Honolulu, Hawaii, or Colorado Springs, or Virginia Beach, or Bakersfield, Riverdale, San Diego, Stockton. It says right here, cities with large military presence where many people buy homes with government-backed mortgages. That's the key right there. Okay, so let's go over here and look. How many VA loans were taken out in 2021? 2021, 1.4 million VA loans were taken out. Okay, so why is this significant? Why does this matter? Well, because a VA loan allows somebody who has those benefits to take out a loan with 0% down. Okay, not all veterans take 0% down. I will give it that. We've had some veterans to put it down 5%, 10% just because they want to. But the major benefit for a VA loan is for the veteran to be able to buy a house with 0% down. Okay, why is that important? Well, on top of that 0% down, meaning they're not paying any equity towards the value of their home. So if they're buying $1 million home, then they get a loan for $1 million, right? So they have 0% equity. But on top of that, they have to finance in a lending fee. So sometimes that lending fee can be $25,000, $35,000, depending on the value of the loan. It could be $3,000 if it's a lower value property, but it just depends on what the cost of the property is. But in other words, immediately, as soon as a veteran buys a home with a 0% down loan, they are underwater 100% of the time if they do a 0% down loan. No matter what the market values do at the time of buying that home, assuming that the home is at or above appraised value, they are underwater on that home. Okay, so if 1.4 million VA loans were issued last year, and the vast majority of them, let's say 50% of them, let's just say 50% were 0% down. Well, that's 50%, that's 720,000 loans that were automatically underwater, okay? They said here, 250,000 of them were underwater. So that's a third of those people that put down 0% loans, and it could be more than 50%, it could be less, I don't know the number on that, but it could be more. That means that in my example of half the people who are doing a 0% down loan who are automatically underwater, 750,000, a third of them are still underwater, which means that 2/3 of them their properties have appreciated enough to not only not be underwater, but they've appreciated enough to the point where they've made up for their VA lending fee. They've actually got positive equity in the property, but they're not telling you that side of the story. All they're focusing on is the third, in this example, that are underwater. And they're not saying how far they're underwater. They may be 0.001% underwater. They're just saying that they're underwater. So the point of this is you have to know what the numbers that are being used in telling these stories are. There's no mention in here about property values dropping. There's no mention in here about how much property values have dropped because they haven't seen it yet. In some areas, they are experiencing some decrease in property values. We're not seeing it here at all in Northern Virginia. This is a national article. So the point in reading this is you have to read these stories and you have to look for the stats. Quite often they'll say something like, the housing market is crashing. And you'll start reading through the article and you'll get through all this and get through all this, and you'll get down to the very bottom of the article and they'll say, but housing prices have crashed 0.001%. The lowest are, month over month or something like that. There'll be some kind of a twist to the story that throws the statistics off, that gives them the story they're trying to tell. So when you're reading an article, please read it and look at what the actual numbers are, and don't read it with the slant that the author or the reporter or the editor or whoever writes the article is trying to put on it, okay? And if you see articles like this that you'd like me to look at and review and see what's factual in them, please send them to me. I would love to do it. I really want to help everybody understand and not follow the herd, not follow the herd mentality, not make decisions that are irrational based on fear mongering, based on untruths, and based on slants. We want to make real estate related decisions based on logical, numerical facts. And sometimes those facts may indicate prices are going really, really high, and if you have to buy now, you have to buy strategically with that and give up everything that you want for protections. Sometimes that means that the future's a little uncertain, so you want to be more conservative when you're buying, especially if you're investing in property. And sometimes that may mean somewhere in the future, and we don't know when, that prices may be going down. But we follow those trends based on what the numbers are telling us, okay? And we have to look at a couple things. We have to look at, number one, not only month over month numbers, because those numbers are giving us, for example, if we're looking at sales data for November, we're actually seeing what happened in the market in September, because it takes anywhere from 30 days for a property to get under contract, and then it takes anywhere from 30 to 60 days, and depending on what part of the country you're in, sometimes 90 days for a property to settle. So if we're looking at sales data for November, we're looking at actual market activity of September, maybe even August. Okay, so that's all back-end data. So you have to look at what's going on week to week. That's why we do a weekly market report. We're looking at front-end data. We're looking at new inventory that came on the market, and we're looking at properties that went off the market and went under contract. Not sales, but properties that went under contract, because that's the most current data that we can get. And right now, our market, there's an opportunity for buyers that if they don't act soon, they may end up missing out. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go back and watch not only the November month-to-month report, but also the market reports, the weekly market reports that I've been sending out over the last year and a half, 2 years. Okay? If you have any questions, please let me know. If you would like me to review any articles, please send them to me. And you can get in touch with me in multiple ways. You can find me online, get in touch with me, but please send me those articles. I'll be happy to do a review of those as well. All right, have a great day. We'll see you on the next video, and I hope you have a great Christmas.